If you're not living under a rock, you've probably heard here and there about 9 to 5 workers leaving their jobs, leaving corporate to go buy a business. You might be wondering, why are they doing this? What's causing this? What are they looking for? What could they possibly find in buying a business? And today we're going to break it down a little bit because there is a big study that just came out on Q1 of 2026, kind of breaking down some of the statistics on this about these corporate refugees, as they call them, and they're leaving for a reason. There's a lot of actually a lot of reasons, and we've got some data to break down on it, got some stuff to talk about. So we're excited to dive in and just talk a little bit about these corporate refugees. So the first thing that we got to understand is, what is the corporate refugee? So we've got some data here with just the BizBuySell data that's been shared. 44% of them are of people that are buying businesses on BizBuySell are these people that are just leaving 9 to 5s.
It's not terribly unknown from what we've already talked about, with many business buyers being former corporately employed individuals. However, we are seeing a drastic spike in it quarter over quarter, and this number doesn't effectively tell you what the Q2 numbers were, which were up 5% to 49%. So we're seeing quite a lot of people doing that. And I think, like you said, with the corporate refugee, it's mostly around people who have hit a point in their career where they're burnt out, that it's just not working. The input is not affecting the output, and they feel pushed to make a change. And the change that they're all seeking is owning a business.
Yeah, I think it's really telling that, 56% are that bought a business in Q1 of 2026 are also first-time business owners too. I think that's up a lot from just, the types of people that were buying businesses before. So I think that a lot of these people they're experiencing conditions in the market that are leading them to want to make a change of some kind. I think one of the big things that we're seeing is just a lot of people getting laid off because of AI, automation. There's a lot of people that had what used to be steady, stable jobs, and now maybe they got laid off or they're worried about getting laid off. And so they're deciding, let me go buy a business instead, or they're seeking freedom.
Well, as we were talking about before the show, it's not necessarily, we were a little surprised at the age brackets that we were seeing. However, to your point earlier, a well-capitalized individual who has the ability to do this is more akin to somebody who has saved for retirement and is saving, but seemingly sees no retirement inside with that amount. So might as well take a little bit of a risk, buy a business that's flowing cash positive, and say, well, let me make this my retirement and see if I can earn more on my own than I could at my job.
Yeah, I think some people see it as almost like a promotion that you make for yourself too. Like maybe I'm earning, I don't know, 150 grand a year, 200 grand a year, and I'm a top performer at my job, but I just don't have a lot of room for growth. And I think, okay, if I buy a business, maybe I can make a few hundred grand, maybe even 500 grand a year. And people are starting to realize that and get savvy to it. I think a really surprising stat that I saw here is 75% are Gen X or millennials. 75% of all business owners and 80% of buyers that were engaging, at least on BizBuySell, are Gen X or millennials, which it's a very telling trend. It seems like it's very telling of what the next generations are going to look like. I think there's going to be a lot more entrepreneurship in them. I think a lot of it is just because it feels more accessible when you see people doing it on social media, online. You just see more information out there on how to do it or make it accessible for yourself.
Oh, for sure.
So let's talk a little bit about what's actually driving people out of corporate America. We were talking about, it being a few things earlier. What do you think about these things, Ryan? You're someone who has spent good time in corporate America, and I think you understand it at a pretty high level. What do you think is some of the main things driving this?
Well, obviously the top one is displacement and layoffs. Those kind of go hand in hand here. And even now we're starting to see the repercussions of AI not being that great, and people, losing their jobs and being, walking out over this stuff. And I think with that comes the possibility for a lot of small business to grow from a diverse talent pool that's developing, or that talent pool to start their own endeavor. So I think while there is a lot of bad in the sense of, layoffs and AI, I think it's just pushing people into that entrepreneurship thing. And in an economy where the dollar isn't going as far and continues to not go as far, if you can make possibly as much, if not maybe even just a little bit more on your own, you're more than likely going to take that chance, because where you are, there's all these other factors. And quite frankly, why would most people want to bet on themselves at this point? If you've been in corporate long enough, burnout. We all know that one. That is what pushes you to 9 out of 10 times to get out there. And then, I mean, both of us, we got our own MBAs, and I think the MBA thing where people are like, oh, I think MBAs don't push you into entrepreneurship. MBAs push you into corporate. That's where MBAs are most utilized. I think the push of MBAs buying businesses, just because I think that is waning and not nearly as prominent as it was maybe a year or two ago, because you do need to have some real world applicable experience. So I think the corporate, if they have the right skill sets, could come into a small business and really be able to do something good for it.
Yeah, I think just in general, there's just a lot of tailwinds moving towards this with AI, job displacement fear. I mean, I think whether someone has already been laid off or is just worried about getting laid off, maybe they see the writing on the wall or feel like they do. That's just a big thing that, I mean, you're probably going to want to try to get ahead of that and just try to carve your own path, especially if you don't feel like there's other options elsewhere. I think that's leading a lot of it, just the uncertainty in general. And this entrepreneurship through acquisition playbook idea it's very interesting. There's more and more people that are voicing their opinions online about having done this or how to do this. And some of it's not so great information. Other times it is pretty good information, and this can actually be done. And I think it's changing a lot of people's perceptions on how accessible entrepreneurship could be, and also maybe changing their perception on what kind of risk comes with it. Maybe they're not thinking, oh, well, I have to figure this out and start my own business anymore. Maybe they're thinking, okay, well, there's something out there that's proven that I can step into. I've stepped into a business and worked in it and had success before. Maybe I could have success as an owner. So I think when buying beats starting for this crowd is, when there's bank financing available. I think there's a lot of banks out there that want to lend for businesses for buying them. I mean, it's very, very difficult to get this type of lending. It takes a lot. It takes a long time. But there's a lot of banks that want to make money off of doing that. So I think as this gets more popular, there's just more options out there for banks. So I think that's part of it as well.
The skill transfer is, I think, the biggest, point of contention. While the skills in corporate are drastically different than the skills in, say, a more hand-oriented business, a more skill-based business, there tends to be a very big disconnect, especially when we've seen where a business is very good at the thing that they do, but they're possibly missing out on a lot of money because their books are a mess, or they're just not tracking things, and $10,000-$20,000 a month is just going out the window because they just don't look. And just a simple tweak like that could turn it from cash positive to cash really positive. So that's where the skill set comes in.
Yeah, and I think I think one of the biggest opportunities here is a lot of these people who have been in corporate America for a few decades, these baby boomers that are selling these businesses, that are retiring and wanting to get out of their business. I think a lot of times they want someone with some experience. So, I mean, I think there's a huge wave with a younger crowd first of people that are maybe chronically on social media, like young. I'm talking like, I talk to people like this a lot, like they're 17, 20, 23, 25 years old and they want to buy a business. But a lot of times they just don't have the means, the resources, the background, or the experience to get it done. But I think a lot of these people that are, 40, 50 years old, maybe even 35, 40 years old, that do have some capital saved up, that do have some skills, are going to appeal a lot more to these baby boomers or people that are selling because they just feel like they're more likely to be successful.
I mean, they're transferring over their life's work and they don't want to just hand it over to somebody they don't feel could really take it and run.
Right. This is interesting, just kind of showing another little visual here, if you can see in the background, of business owners. It's a lot of Gen X and millennials that are active buyers in this, and not as many baby boomers. So
yeah,
it's just going to be kind of like a generational shift that we see of more and more entrepreneurs out there as things get more uncertain in the job market, I think.
I'll keep it a honey bone with you. I regret that I chose two blues. It looked better on screen. But if you guys can't tell, there's a darker blue on the left-hand side and a lighter blue on the right-hand side that's on me. But basically in the market, we're seeing that Gen X and millennials are almost half of them, 80%, are buyers, and 70% are business owners of the collective. And of the business owners that own, it's like 20 to 50. Yeah, it's insanity. Like, truly. It doesn't make much sense, but you're seeing that the whole baby boomers tsunami thing is pretty much coming to an end, and the Gen X elder millennial crowd is taken in. And now this is off of BizBuySell alone, so we don't even have the full length of the data from every other broker site or even independent brokers. But if this is just a general site, this is probably even more exacerbated the more data you would collect.
So what does this mean for people who are selling their business? I think it means that, you need to have your financials organized, same as always. You need to price right. You need to have documented systems, and you might be able to close faster because there's just more people out there in the market. There's more buyers out there, and maybe more likely to just find someone who's kind of equipped to close on it.
It's one of these things where I think, like, so many people that we talk to have businesses that, are in the process of preparing or thinking about it. And the main complaint is not understanding how to sell or how to clean the books. And I think that one thing that, Scale for Sale has done very well is teach people how to clean these things up for very simply, very cleanly methodologies that are not only good for them, but are easily transferable in ways that a more sophisticated buyer could come in, and when they present it, they can very quickly understand. And I think that's one of the things that I, personally like about Scale for Sale, is giving these business owners who have run very successful businesses simple tweaks that are just get up and go. We plug it in, they learn, it's plug and play, and then they're able to get top dollar for their business, because at the end of the day, it really is just the small things that are holding them back from getting that price that they want, and also the buyer from fully offering up what they think the business is worth. And, on that thing, we have this list here about what this means for the buyers after this gets cleaned up. I'd say the corporate background is an asset only in the actual business running of it. Where you as a seller are still going to be needed is probably in more of a mentorship role. And I think you can talk more to this, but the role of the seller that's willing to stay on longer and be sort of in a mentorship role is going to become more and more prevalent, because these people may not have the experience that you have in the business, but they have the ability and the desire to run and buy it. So the longer you're willing to stay in, the better off you're going to be, I think, long term, and also the more money you can command.
I would say too, if you're part of the majority of these statistics, which the stats are telling us that more now than ever, it's new business owners that are buying these businesses. So if you're part of those statistics and you haven't owned a business before, maybe try to look for a seller who's a little bit more willing to be that mentor. Ryan and I interviewed these guys a few weeks ago. It's on the channel if you want to check it out. I think it's something like 8-figure HVAC entrepreneurs, acquired 9 businesses, something along those lines. We'll try to link it in the description so you can find it. But Ryan and I interviewed these guys where one of them bought the business from the other. He was someone who had built the business up over time. And then they actually ended up working together because of the mentorship that the seller gave after the purchase, after the transaction. That mentorship led to them partnering up and doing a whole roll up together where they bought multiple businesses. They bought 9 over the course of like 5 years, and then they sold to private equity, and they got rich as hell doing it. And it's all because a guy that had not owned a business before got in and was able to secure that mentorship from the person who sold it to him and be a good steward of the business because of it. So I would say if you're someone who's looking to get into this, who's looking to buy a business, maybe you're in this position, try to find a mentor who's done it before, whether they've just grown a business like this, whether they're the seller that is selling the business to you, or whether they're someone that is just in this game and trying to do it. We help a lot of people. I'll talk to anyone if you want to message me and just ask me questions. Same with Ryan, I'm sure. You can find us on LinkedIn at the same names that you see on the screen, Brody Vincent MBA or Ryan Santo MBA. And we're happy to have a conversation and just talk you through it. But it really helps to have a mentor in this game, someone who's in this game and understands how to assess these businesses. So that's what I would say. If you're trying to do it and you're part of this majority of people who haven't done it before, make sure you do it right.
And I think when you're going out and on this journey and searching, BizBuySell is a great way to kind of get your feet wet. But once you narrow in what you actually want to do and where you feel like you'd be a best fit, search out a broker, both buyer and seller. A broker is a really good resource because they'll point you towards banks, they'll point you towards businesses, they'll point you towards wherever you need to do. And it will help you avoid a lot of awkward and uncomfortable and sometimes very rude phone calls with people who may or may not want to even have anything to do with you. So make sure when you're going out there and you're doing this, if you are one of these corporate refugees or business owners, you're getting people who are going to advocate for you and kind of help you through this process.
That's right. And if you've enjoyed this episode, we do this every Tuesday night right around 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So tune in for the next one, and we'll see you then.